Hello, welcome to the Module 6 discussion for CMST430. I'm Bill Perkins, and if you don't know how this goes, you're watching the wrong video. So, for Chapter 9, Question 1, discuss and differentiate between groups and teams in terms of both development and performance. Why do the authors differentiate? Groups versus teams on page 261 states that groups can eventually become teams. The main difference is that teams need to support each team member, with little emphasis on the individual, but rather on the team. Groups are about the individual and how he or she meets the goals and objectives on their own. Teams are a collective working to achieve the best possible outcome for the team, no matter what the goal or task. They put aside their own individual issues, needs, etc., and focus on the team's issues, needs, and etc. Teams have always seemed to be more action-orientated to me. I know from experience that when I can put together a team, more seems to get done and faster. Groups seem to get bogged down in details and personal agendas. A team is about each member helping each other to get the task done. There's more support, and if done right, there's a better use of each member's abilities. For instance, member 1 is best at doing work A. Member 2 is best at doing work B. In a team, they can focus only on what they personally do best, and this means that work A and B is done to the highest standard. I also like teams because a highly functioning team needs very little supervision. They may need a little tweak or a nudge to get on the right track, but usually they self-regulate. The only problem I've run into with teams is that they can become a little insulated, and in my opinion, you should disband and reform teams with slightly different members as tasks are completed or as part of a schedule. As a supervisor at one group home, I had 3 teams: morning shift, afternoon, and night shift. I would move one person from each team to a different shift for 1 month. So if you work day shift, you would have to work swing shift for 1 month and night shift for 1 month every year, never consecutively. This way, everyone had experience on every shift and with every team. And yes, it was in the labor union contract that no one had a set shift or work hours, and I made sure everyone knew what was expected before they were hired. Question 3, discuss the impact of the various group roles discussed in the chapter. What roles have you played? Think of class or work groups. How do you think your peers would describe your group roles? Be honest. For group task roles, page 276, I think I'm either an information seeker who focuses on ensuring that the group has accurate information and makes sure that the data that's being used is correct, or I'm a coordinator who tries to find the common links between various ideas of group members and combine them in some sort of a succinct package. Those seem to be the 2 task roles I play. I've always focused on the quality and accuracy of information as being the only way to achieve the best result. Probably because I love to read and learn new things about the world and people in it. As a coordinator, I try to show how ideas are related and how they can work together. If there's a problem and 2 different ways to resolve it, many times those solutions work better when put together. Plus, someone has to make sure that things keep ticking and get done without becoming bogged down on one part. In the group building and maintenance roles, pages 278, I think that I'm usually the harmonizer, trying to ensure that the group handles conflict effectively. I honestly think that it stems from being the middle child in a deeply dysfunctional family. A harmonizer tries to prevent conflict from occurring in a group and relieve tension in the group when it does, while offering constructive ways to solve the issue. I think those 3 roles of information seeker, coordinator, and harmonizer, is part of what made me a good manager. In the self-centered roles, page 279, I also know that I am, when feeling negative, unhappy, threatened, or unappreciated, the aggressor. I then feel the need to improve my own standing within the group by taking others down. I have worked on this for many years. I realize that it is mostly about my own feelings of insecurity and powerlessness that caused me to lash out in this manner. In the past, I used a lot of wit, negative humor, backstabbing, manipulation of others' emotions or perceptions in order to impact my target, etc. I realized in my mid-20s exactly how destructive this pattern was for myself. I still wasn't happy, and hurting someone else did not change my life, and I really didn't like myself. So I spent many years actively working on the issue, and still if I feel myself falling back into the habit, I will go away and think about why, what am I feeling, how do I address those feelings about me, and I focus on being a positive person instead of a negative one. Anytime you fall into those self-centered roles, you're no longer being a team member or even part of a group. You have to move yourself back into a more positive role. Now for 2 questions from Chapter 10. Question 3. While much of this chapter focuses on recruitment and socialization, considering the material, how do you believe adding new members to an existing team might impact or potentially resocialize members of an existing team? Anytime you add a new member to an existing team, you are rebuilding the team. You are changing the dynamic. If you want a new member to fit in and find total acceptance, you have to start at the beginning. There will be changes in the roles that team members play, as the new member will bring new skills and knowledge to the team, so everybody may shift in the roles that they are playing and that they are working through. From my own experience, the dimensions of socialization resources theory on page 301, table 10.3, is the best checklist for integrating a new member to a team or organization. I didn't do all of them, but when I had a new team member, when I was running teams and groups, I would do the following. Remember that my team covered 3 shifts, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Bring them in to have a meet and greet with as many of the team as possible, sometime within the first 2 weeks of hire. Invite them to join our monthly potluck and to associate off hours with team members. Spend a day on orientation, rules, procedures, norms, etc. Then I would assign someone to work with them as a mentor for the first week on the shift that they would be taking over. I'd make sure that they knew what the responsibilities each member of the team had and who to talk to depending on the question or the need. I would provide all of my phone numbers, work in private, let them know my office hours. I would also visit them at least twice during their first week of work, and also afterwards at least once a month when they became a permanent member. We had monthly meetings to discuss goals, needs of clients, needs of staff, any changes or concerns. Spend about an hour on that, and then we'd spend an hour going over a specific task or looking at new ways to achieve a goal. After the first month, the new member would be given the responsibility for one extra thing, possibly nutrition and meal planning, daily outings, weekly outings, cleaning, etc. They would need to work with people on all the shifts to accomplish the task. This helped give every member a feeling of not just working there, but also being responsible for making the clients' lives better in some way. I wanted them to feel like they were integrated and they had meaning in their jobs. Question 4. Disengagement was not given as much attention as recruitment or socialization. Still apply the material to your own experience of leaving organizations. There are 2 types of disengagement, voluntary and involuntary. Frederick Jablin postulated that there are 4 general steps we all go through no matter what kind of disengagement it is. Using my own experience with being terminated, let's look at involuntary disengagement in these 4 stages. The pre-announcement. I knew something was wrong. I was called and asked to come to the office with no explanation as to why. The secretary appeared sad, and one of the supervisors came in the waiting room of the office and seemed a little upset and shook my hand, asked me how I was, didn't tell me what was going on. So I just sat there and waited for the manager to open the door. The announcement of exit step. I was called into the office and told they had to let me go. I had the choice to quit voluntarily or be fired. They appreciated all of my hard work and would be happy to give me a positive reference as long as I chose to leave. Choosing to leave would make the circumstances easier for the company and other members and prevent a possibly long, drawn-out lawsuit. They made me feel like staying would only hurt the organization, the clients, and my team members. The actual exit step was over quickly. I was not allowed to empty my desk. I left the building, and they shipped me a box of my stuff the next week. What other members of the organization thought about the whole process or the reasoning, I only know by what I was told. They said they were on my side, that it was wrong, they couldn't believe it happened, they no longer trusted management. But I'm also sure there were a few that were happy to see me out of there. The post-exit step was not easy for me. I had spent a year, 60 to 70 hours a week, devoted to that organization, the clients, and my team. I had worked to build a whole new system of supports for my clients and improved outcomes. It took some time for me to separate myself from that, and even longer to get over my feelings of being used and thrown away by the head manager, and feeling like I hadn't been given the opportunity I should have been. Now we'll look at the case study, Not a Laughing Matter. Per Chapter 9, I think in Group versus Team, page 261, Dante obviously sees himself as an individual person in a group and not as a team member. It states that he is officially part of the creative team, yet there's no indication that he actually met or worked with the team to implement his analysis or even to reach his final outcomes in that analysis. It seems like he worked in a bubble and they just handed over his data with no further implementation or team members or group meetings or anything. Per the team performance model on page 263, I don't think there's an inclusion of Dante in the creative team. I would think that his supervisor, Connie, failed to integrate him. While his analysis may be creative and new, without his participation on the creative team, there's a missing element that is needed to bring that analysis to life. Without the team building, there's no way to best use each other's talents or to really understand how each member's talents fit into completing the task and how to create a program and a campaign. Those have to come together. Connie failed to implement any kind of orientation for group members to learn about the task and each other. No trust building took place between the members of the team. There's no clarification of the goal between the members and the coming together of effort. There's no commitment or communication about roles and resources in the team. And no implementation of the team working together. And without that, there's no high performance and absolutely no renewal when they come together at the end to refine the process and to talk about what they had done and how to make it better. So Dante's there doing his thing. The creative team is doing theirs. And that's all there is. Per Chapter 10, the organizational anticipatory socialization, page 297. This has two parts, recruiting and reconnaissance, and then selection. In this case, it definitely went both ways. Dante had already begun this process by gaining some experience with the organization through observation. He'd done a lot of reconnaissance and decided he wanted to work there. He had begun the process of recruiting the organization to hire him by convincing the upper management that he was right for their organization. He did this by maintaining contact with many of them and asking for interviews. From the management perspective, they also did some recruiting and reconnaissance, followed by selection. They got a chance to know him and learn about his qualification through his previous schoolwork and through multiple interviews. They ultimately selected him to be a part of the Bedrock family. Okay, that's it. Thank you for your time and your ears. Have a great one.